Yeah, the idea of sex. This is one of the things that I tell people because we make such a big deal about it. It's really not a big deal. It's a physical, biological function that people get pleasure from. You should never use sex as a way to control people or to dominate people or to abuse people. When you do that, at that point, it no longer is this thing that is meant to be. It is something different that people fundamentally use to their advantage or manipulate others with. So that's where you can get into like really sticky territory and when you can get into trouble, because that's why we run into these situations where people take advantage of others or they misuse sex and something that I really do believe is that if we did not have a culture that was so focused on like not discussing or not, I mean, look at the classical period. Look at like all of the art that was done with, nude men and nude women. I mean, this was just a appreciation for the human form, and it was part of the culture. And now when people go to places like that, they don't freak out or, oh my God, he's naked. No, because they accept that that's part of the cultural history that has been left behind by a lot of these ancient artistic masters. So when we think of sex now, people are much more readily available to embrace and to utilize violence than sex. I would prefer to see more sexual like visuals on TV than violence. Like there's too much violence on TV. Like I don't understand the idea of violence. Violence is like horrific, and I think that's one of the things that bugs me is that a lot of shows and a lot of programs that come on, especially like with like Star Trek, which I'm a huge Star Trek fan. The first season of one of the newer shows was it was too violent for me and too gory, and I'm like, why do we need to have so much gore? Why do we need to have so much violence? I get some people get their kicks from that. I personally don't. I don't like seeing that kind of like suffering. I don't even like to see the idea of suffering because it's very painful to have to go through. I get it in some instances. It makes a point. It gets a point across about the situation. But the glorification of violence and gore, I don't understand that. And if anything, I don't think it's doing us any favors because people, they become used to it and then they rationalize when they act in a way that is violent or aggressive. And they rationalize it as if it's like a norm or it's okay or it's perfectly, it's fine to be that way. No, it's not. It's not okay. We're above that. We're better than that. But we tend to give violence and we tend to give aggression a lot more airtime than we give just basic sexuality. So I don't understand that. But that's just the way that our society, you have people who are, I want to hold the values of the family together and I want to focus on being, servant of God and and they have this very conservative mindset, but there's also like, okay, but I'm going to grab a gun and shoot people, or I'm going to grab a gun and I'm going to walk around and be threatening to everybody. Like, I don't understand that idea. It doesn't make sense to me. It's like the opposite. Like, okay, if you want to be a compassionate person, where's your compassion? Where's your exemplification of compassion? Where are you practicing being a compassionate human being? Let me see that. I don't want to see you making a statement that you're a compassionate person, but not exemplifying that. Like, exemplify it. Show an example of that and show it on a regular enough basis. Because if not, then you're just full of words. You're just speaking out of your ass. You're not really what you say you are. You are the opposite of what you say you are because you're using what you say you are as a shield and as a way to identify yourself or a way to boost yourself up, but you're not really exemplifying it. You're not really being that thing. Why? What's the problem there? And that's an issue. It's like this duplicitous way of being where people say one thing or call themselves one thing, but then they operate in the opposite way. So I think it's important that we call ourselves out. We hold ourselves to higher standards. We hold ourselves to values that we can all appreciate. And I think we all appreciate having a peaceful world. I think we can all appreciate having a life that does not have to deal with a lot of violence or anger or hatred. I mean, I think we can deal with that. I think we all prefer that over a freaking like Mad Max scenario where everyone's trying to blow each other up and they're trying to take advantage of each other. Like, we're better than that. We're better than that. Why are we even allowing ourselves to even think that way? We can do better than that, right?